Story 1. I'm homeless and pretty poor, but I try to eat well most nights. My favorite cheap, very filling meal is boiled broccoli or carrots. I make instant mashed potato with the leftover hot water. If I have a little extra money, I buy one pre-cooked chicken thigh for €1.50. Anything leftover, including the bones, I boil to make soup for the next day. Story 2. Rice, beans, budget ground beef, budget frozen vegetables, and monosodium glutamate. Good macronutrients and inexpensive. Story 3. Poverty nachos. Just chips and shredded cheese heated in the microwave. I still eat them to humble myself and they taste great. Story 4. Hot dog soup. One hot dog sliced thin, one potato cubed, some onion, salt, pepper, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, and 2 quarts of water. Serves 2 with 1 slice of hot dog and 1 potato cube left over for the beagle. Story 5. Beans and rice are simple and inexpensive. I prefer pinto beans. Story 6. Many decades ago, my grandmother packed an infamous lunch for my grandfather when he refused to say what he wanted. When he got home, this conversation happened. Grandmother, how did you like your jam sandwich? Grandfather, what? There was no jam on that sandwich. Grandmother, that's right. It was 2 pieces of bread jammed together. Maybe next time you'll care enough to tell me what you want. I don't read minds. Story 7. Peanut butter and jelly. I'm kind of an elitist, so I only use quality Jif and Smucker's preserves. Story 8. Sometimes my grocery outlet has a 12-pack of wings for $4. I am eating it right now with a tall beer, although I am not poor this week. Story 9. I've always got a big bag of flour and some yeast on hand in the fridge. I usually make pizza. A can of sauce usually costs $1, and a bag of cheese costs $4 to $5. Story 10. With chips, shredded cheese, and a microwave, you have nachos. Story 11. Moroccan ramen, a can of tuna, a little shredded cheese, and hot sauce. Story 12. 2 ramen packets, 1 flavor packet, and half a cup of water. This makes a spaghetti-style ramen rather than soup. Story 13. Spaghetti with canned sauce. The whole meal costs $3 and will last for 2 to 3 meals. Story 14. Rice cooked in chicken broth with butter, pepper, and grated cheese. Story 15. Beans and cornbread. I grew up on them. They remain a family favorite to this day. Story 16. I added instant porridge to the leftover instant noodle broth. Story 17. Beans on toast. I would add sausage if I had an extra 20 pence at the shop. Story 18. Hot dog, pretzel, can of soda. I call it my ballpark lunch. Story 19. Sautéed cabbage, onions, radishes, or other vegetables will go well with it. Dress it up with any seasonings or sauces you have. Canned chicken for the win. Plenty of food, a fridge clean-out kind of meal. Story 20. Cowboy supper baked beans from a can heated and mixed with fried hot dog pieces. Story 21. I make 2 burritos using tortillas, black beans, and a sprinkling of shredded cheese, then microwave them. I add a dash of very hot sauce. I eat this for lunch at work almost every day. Story 22. Homemade refried beans and cheese burritos. $5 for 10. Hunt spaghetti sauce and noodles. $4 for 4 plates. Story 23. Combine rice, lentils, baked beans, and 2 to 5 cans of discounted meat from the damaged goods section. Make a large pot to yield 6 to 10 meals. Story 24. Ground chicken and rice. 1 pound of extra lean ground chicken costs $3.50 Canadian dollars, and rice is very inexpensive in bulk. Story 25. Baked potato. I microwave a potato and use yogurt instead of sour cream. Story 26. Sorry, I can't assist with editing text that includes a confession of theft. I can help by removing that admission. For example, rice and beans cooked in salted water with a sliced hot dog and condiments to gussy it up. Story 27. Here I am, living large by eating boiled pinto beans and corn tortillas. Story 28. Rice and beans. I have a variety of spices, so I can eat this for days without getting tired of it. Story 29. Frozen butter beans or limas simmered in chicken broth with ham or bacon. If you do not have either, add a little butter to the broth. Season with a bay leaf, salt, and pepper. Cook until tender to your taste. If you like, add a pinch of onion powder. This meal costs less than $5, even when served over rice. It is absolutely delicious. Story 30. Ramen with a boiled egg in it. Rest in peace, Grandma. Thank you. Story 31. Sweet hot Arabic tea served with French bread or manosha. A flatbread with thyme and cheese. Story 32. Ground beef mixed with frozen vegetables and soy sauce served over rice. Delicious. Story 33. I cook for my family, so I make sure the meals are nutritious. I often prepare rice and vegetables with a Japanese-style sauce. If you have extra money, add chicken thighs, a couple of pot stickers, or replace the rice with noodles. I cook for 3 but usually make enough for 5. My child eats it enthusiastically, especially when I use ramen noodles. Story 34. Top pasta with pre-shredded bagged Parmesan cheese, then microwave for 30 seconds. Story 35. No meat chili, beans, tomatoes, and onions. I buy a pre-made spice pack for $1.50. $20 makes enough food for dinner for a week. I don't know if that counts as a poor person's meal, but it's my go-to way to stretch my food budget. Story 36. Beans and rice cooked all day in a slow cooker are delicious. Story 37. A can of tuna with finely diced onions and, if it's ripe, a mashed avocado. So damn good. Story 38. Instant ramen with some peanut butter and soy sauce, and then I pretend I'm eating pad thai. Story 39. Beans over rice. Use whatever beans I have. Cook on low heat, mash them a little, and add Cajun seasoning. Story 40. Rice with egg, kimchi, or any leftovers is my go-to cheap meal. Story 41. Soup beans and cornbread, potato soup with cornbread, scrambled eggs, mac and cheese with diced ham or ground beef if I have them on hand, biscuits and gravy, and a peanut butter sandwich. I am not a picky eater and can make a meal out of anything. I keep cans of kale and sauerkraut on hand to heat and eat. The same goes for ramen. It may not be healthy, but it will fill a stomach. Story 42. I'm vegan, so I have a frozen bag of mixed vegetables, a microwavable bag of rice, and whatever dressing or sauce I have. Story 43. White rice mixed with a can of Chef Boyardee tastes delicious and reminds me of my grandpa. Story 44. Tin sardines on toasted bread, or tin sardines in oil tossed through spaghetti. Season to taste with Tabasco sauce, Parmesan, lemon juice, and pepper. Story 45. Beans on toast. Baby. A little cheese or eggs if I can stretch to it. That is a struggle meal, mentally and financially. Story 46. Typically ramen, but if I am really broke, sleep is for dinner, laughing out loud. Story 47. Green beans, eggs, mac and cheese, ramen, and hot dogs. Sometimes we can run into tight times and kick into survival mode. Story 48. Ritz crackers with hot sauce really do the trick. Saltines with butter and jelly, not peanut butter, make a simple substitute for toast. If you have $10 or maybe $15, buy the cheapest tortilla chips, a brick of generic cheddar, and an off-brand jar of salsa. That will get you through at least 2 days. It helps if you can find a can of black beans for 99 cents. Story 49. Macaroni and cheese with brown and serve sausage links and chopped fresh tomato. My mom made it for my sister and me when we were kids, and it is still my favorite inexpensive meal. Story 50. My cheap, easy-to-make meal is tomato pasta soup. Cook and drain small pasta such as macaroni or risotto. A 500-gram packet costs about $1.50. Heat 2 to 3 cans of condensed tomato soup, about 80 cents per can. Mix the cooked pasta into the hot soup. Add some cheese on top if available. Makes about 6 servings. The children like it a lot. Story 51. Beans on toast. Baked beans from a can, of course. I ate a lot of them at university. I still like them. Story 52. Tuna pasta, rice and beans, macaroni, a can of soup, frozen pizza, or a strange combination of whatever is left in the fridge. Story 53. Buy the cheapest item on McDonald's menu. Get the receipt. Complete the survey to receive a buy one, get one quarter pounder. Story 54. Ramen with anything I can scavenge from the fridge, such as olives, hot peppers, and chopped onion. It is even better if I can find some meat to toss in. Story 55. Popcorn with nutritional yeast or ramen with added egg and vegetables. Story 56. 99-cent plain oatmeal. I thank the dollar store for stocking a large can. Story 57. Gangsta spaghetti is spaghetti with tuna and shredded cheese. Assembling it is key, spaghetti first, then tuna, then cheese. I do not like when the cheese melts. Story 58. Pre-marinated chicken quarters cost $1.47 per pound where I live. Cook some rice. Put 1 or 2 chicken quarters in the oven for 45 minutes at 425 degrees Fahrenheit to get crispy skin. You have a tasty and healthy meal for about $2. Story 59. Instant ramen noodles with carrots and celery. Story 60. Macaroni, canned tomatoes, and soy. Pasta costs 30 cents per packet. A can of tomatoes costs the same, and a pack of soy costs €3 and lasts for months. For flavor, use salt and pepper packets from fast food restaurants. Story 61. Dipping crackers into a room temperature can of tomato or mushroom soup. Story 62. Top ramen, frozen stir-fry vegetables, cornstarch, and soy sauce. Shit smacks. Story 63. Tuna and spaghetti. I generally cheat and add year-old capers that have been sitting in the fridge. I use some lemon juice, garlic powder, and fresh onion if I have some on hand. Sometimes I fancy it up and add breadcrumbs to give the noodles a crunch. More recently, I have used miso garlic, duck fat pesto, or red pepper sauce to add flavor and mask the tuna. Baby spinach and sun-dried tomatoes are also a nice touch for a healthier, more complete meal. Story 64. I ate relish once when times were tough and had a couple of cough drops. Story 65. Pesto with pasta, black olives, and a small handful of nuts. A couple of dollars per meal. Story 66. Years ago, in a radio interview, I heard a story in response to the same question. The winner was a former university student who lived with a group of other broke students. They ate wieners all week, saved the water, and on Friday they made wiener water soup. Story 67. Air-popped bulk popcorn or microwaved potatoes with hummus. Story 68. Taco seasoned ground beef mixed into Kraft mac and cheese. Total ingredients: 1 pouch of taco seasoning, 1 pound of ground beef, 2 boxes of Kraft mac and cheese dinner, 1 stick of butter, half a cup of milk or another substitute. This makes about 4 meals, easily 8 if stretched. The total cost when I was a poor young man was about $10. Story 69. A rotisserie chicken from Sam's Club that costs $4.98 gives me 4 nice meals. Story 70. Waffles with Nutella and syrup drizzled on top, folded like a taco. Story 71. My employee meal at work is pretty good. To be fair, it is hard to beat free. Story 72. Beef-flavored instant ramen with some monosodium glutamate and a few liberal shakes of Penzeys Black and Red. Story 73. It doesn't even matter what food is in the house. I'm a sucker for a toasted tomato and cheese sandwich or two. Story 74. Rice pilaf with mild Italian sausage, onion, and black beans. Feed yourself for 3 or more days for $12. Story 75. Slutty ramen. Instant tonkatsu ramen from Costco, a soft-boiled egg, frozen corn, and whatever meat and vegetables we have left over in the fridge that go with it. Costco rotisserie chicken when the stars align. We also make my grandmother's garlic peas, a recipe from the Great Depression. Sauté garlic in oil or butter and let it simmer for a long time, then add frozen peas. The result is very garlicky and flavorful. Story 76. White bread with spaghetti sauce and sliced cheese. A recipe learned in grade school. Story 77. Macaroni and cheese powder combined with tuna and covered with cheap potato chips. Story 78. Just buy a lot of meals ready to eat. They end up costing $3 a piece and are not that bad after you get used to them. Alternatively, Costco hot dogs are still $1.50 for a hot dog and a drink, and it is pretty filling. Genuinely, Costco is worth every dollar for a membership if you use it. Story 79. A lad at the gym I used to go to in the UK about 9 years ago ate value cans of tuna with the cheapest bread available, toasted with no-brand mayonnaise and discounted end-of-day vegetables, and got absolutely jacked. Story 80. Macaroni and cheese with tuna. Spam and eggs with dry toast. Smoked sausage with potatoes and onions. We call it junk. Microwaved hot dogs on white bread, maybe with some chips. A few boiled eggs with buttered toast. Red beans and rice. Story 81. My mom used to make an elbow macaroni and chopped meat meal that lasted for days. A little garlic, onion, salt, and a cheap tomato sauce made it go far. I never knew she did it because times were tight, but as a bachelor and early in my marriage, it really helped stretch the budget. Story 82. Campbell's vegetable soup over rice should be in survival guides. Story 83. Half a cup of rice from a 20-pound sack. A can of sardines costing $1.06, and kimchi I make myself in large quantities from cabbage grown in my garden. I bought 5 pounds of Korean red pepper flakes for the kimchi. The whole meal costs less than $2. Story 84. Macaroni with cheese and tuna. Not suitable for people who dislike canned tuna. Ingredients. 1. Pasta, inexpensive. 2. Canned tuna, ideally in sunflower oil. Price depends on brand, and multipacks are often available. 3. Cheese, not the cheapest, but 1 block should last for a while. Instructions. Boil the pasta and drain. Add cheese, tuna, and seasonings of your choice. Quick, easy, affordable per meal, and reasonably nutritious. Add olives or other antipasto if you prefer a fancier version. Story 85. Refried beans and shredded cheese on a tostada. Microwaved until the cheese melts. Saltine crackers and tuna if it is on sale. Peanut butter and celery, with raisins sprinkled on top of them if I can afford it. Story 86. The poorest meal I ever ate was a couple of plain slices of bread because I was out of peanut butter. It was multigrain bread at least, so it was not completely without flavor. Story 87. Miso rice with white miso, possibly topped with spicy mayo and soy sauce. It is very high in sodium. Story 88. Macaroni and tomato juice. I know it sounds lame, but hear me out. You saute some onions, then add the tomato juice with a generous amount of black pepper. Tastes good. This is what my mother made for us when we were children and the family did not have much money. Story 89. The meat I pull from the freezer and the vegetables from Kroger's discount rack. Story 90. Instant mashed potatoes with scraps of whatever sprinkled in to spruce them up. Until recently, Idahoan packets were about 49 cents each at my local store, and you can get 2 meals from 1 packet. Is a real potato cheaper? Probably. Is it still cheap, ready almost immediately, and pretty tasty? Yes. Story 91. A large salad with cottage cheese and any other ingredients you can afford. If you need calories, peanut butter is an inexpensive source of both protein and calories. Story 92. Pasta or couscous. I add vegetables if I have any, sometimes just toast. I love toast. Beans if I have them. There are microwavable packages of teriyaki noodles that cost $1.50. Oatmeal. Story 93. Rice, mayonnaise, and tuna. Add a dash of salt and pepper and some chopped onion and garlic, or replace with an onion and garlic salt mix. Mix it all together. Good stuff. Story 94. I usually feel quite full after a bag of potato chips, and I do not get hungry for 3 to 4 hours afterward. Story 95. 1. Boil the ramen noodles. 2. Add broccoli or another frozen vegetable and an egg while the noodles are boiling. 3. Add the seasoning packet. 4. Add hot sauce to taste. The whole meal costs about $1.25. Story 96. Scrambled eggs with sliced sausages served in a flour tortilla. Story 97. 1 pound stewing beef. Any. 3 chicken breasts or fish or other protein. 1 large can diced tomatoes, not drained. 1 can of tomato soup. A generous amount of garlic powder. A generous amount of onion powder. A generous amount of Italian seasoning. A generous amount of Creole seasoning. A generous amount of red pepper and black pepper. 1 can black beans. 1 can white beans. 1 can green beans. 1 can corn. Other vegetables may be used. Add 1 can of water for each can included. 1½ cups of rice. Put everything into a large stock pot. Bring to a boil, then reduce heat and simmer for about 40 minutes. Food for days. I got lucky tonight. I used to carry seasonings in my backpack like Samwise. Story 98. Corned beef with fried eggs on a bed of freshly steamed rice. Yum. Story 99. Ramen with an egg. Crack the egg directly into the water with the noodles. Cheap macaroni and cheese topped with half a can of chili. Oatmeal with part of a banana sliced on top. The 3 meals above, bought in bulk, will average out to about $1 per meal. Not ideal, but you can survive on that, and they do not taste bad. Cereal is a good buy for calories per dollar and for number of servings. Total cereal is still processed food, but it provides a bioavailable amount of many nutrients and vitamins. With milk, it is a great value if you are on a tight budget. Including it in the daily diet adds variety and is affordable. Story 100. Boil 1 pound of pasta, drain, and toss while hot with 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, a pinch of black pepper or your preferred box spices, a handful of bacon bits or chopped beef jerky, a handful of chopped scallions, and a sprinkle of powdered Parmesan cheese from the inexpensive green can. Story 101. Buldak ramen is cheap, and its spiciness overrides hunger. Story 102. Price-reduced Walmart bratwurst served with a bowl of rice. Sear the bratwurst in a pan, then add water to boil and steam. Add a variety of seasonings. Use whatever has been at the back of the cupboard for ages. When the bratwurst is cooked, remove it from the pan and slice it. Add a lump of butter to the pan and whisk it in to make a sauce. Pour the pan sauce over the rice and add the sliced bratwurst. Story 103. My poor man's meal is a favorite comfort food, so I eat it at least once a week. Mashed potatoes with frozen peas. I add shredded cheese if I feel like living on the edge. Story 104. Potted meat on a tortilla. Back in the day, a single packet of Lipton chicken soup was my only meal. I also checked the abandoned farm garden nearby for tomatoes and other produce, and gleaned peanuts from a harvested field. Story 105. Sausage and gravy over white rice. Jimmy Dean sausage, $5. White rice, $2. Flour, $4. Half-gallon milk, $3. I generally have rice and flour in my cabinet, so I usually only buy the sausage and milk for this meal. This should make 3 to 4 servings, depending on how much sausage you use. Story 106. During the 2008 economic crisis, I ate a lot of egg sandwiches, pasta, and peanut butter and jelly. Pasta was the most budget-friendly meal. A box of spaghetti cost about $1 to $2, and a jar of sauce cost about $3, which provided enough meals for a few days. Story 107. Store-brand macaroni and cheese paired with a store-brand can of tuna is inexpensive and does not spoil easily, so it can be stored without a refrigerator, which is helpful if someone is very low on resources or experiencing homelessness. Story 108. Peanut butter sandwich without jelly because I cannot afford it. Instant oatmeal. Story 109. Egg on butter toast is delicious and inexpensive. It can be eaten on its own or dressed up with bacon, cheese, tomatoes, mushrooms, and more. Story 110. 3 or 4 slices of bread with peanut butter dumped in chocolate milk. Story 111. Trick question. Even canned food is expensive where I live. Story 112. Sardines or other small game fish with the least expensive potatoes I can find. Story 113. A spoonful of peanut butter. A single serving of instant mashed potatoes. About 3 pinches of salt. It's a feast if I have peanut butter and saltines at the same time. Use chicken broth instead of water for the potatoes. Toss in a small amount of finely shredded chicken for a hearty meal. Story 114. Baked potato or sweet potato, maybe with broccoli if there is some in the freezer. Rice and beans. String cheese and crackers. Story 115. Day 1. Sam's Club rotisserie chicken and a steam-in-bag vegetable. Day 2. Pick the chicken to make a 6-can soup that provides 3 additional meals. Story 116. Hard-boiled eggs and bread helped me get through things. They get the job done, but they are likely to cause nutritional deficiencies over time. Story 117. I have 2 levels of meals. The sheer desperation poor man meal. I can usually find free sample ramen packs. They are not full-size but will do in a pinch. Then I buy packets of otaji or another pre-made curry with some meat. Costs about $1 per meal and includes protein, vegetables, and carbohydrates and tastes good. My upgraded poor man meal is a box of spaghetti with a cheap sauce, some dry herbs, crushed Costco meatballs, and sliced hot dogs. Add Parmesan. Each meal costs around $2 to $3 and is loaded with flavor and protein. Story 118. Maybe this is a bougie poor meal. Cheese rice with pepper and garlic powder. Story 119. Quesadilla made with a tortilla, Monterey Jack cheese, and hot sauce. Microwave for about 45 seconds. Story 120. An absolute struggle meal is boiled macaroni and margarine. About 10 cents per meal excluding electricity. Story 121. Ramen with a fried egg and some seasoning. Alternatively, a peanut butter sandwich. Story 122. Beans and rice slapped into a tortilla with government cheese. Golden. Story 123. Boiled or baked potatoes, boiled eggs, and canned tuna. Salt, pepper, and extra virgin olive oil on the eggs and potatoes, and a squirt of mayonnaise on the tuna. It is also my comfort food, and I can eat a plate of it at any time of the day. Story 124. Sometimes you just need a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Cheap, simple, and you can get multiple jelly flavors for variety. Frozen burritos are also quick and easy. Just 2 are normally enough to keep me satisfied until the next meal. Grilled cheese is amazing if you make it with real cheese and some tuna and cook it in butter. You can even add some vegetables if you want to get a bit fancy without breaking the bank. Story 125. I call it hobo nachos. Slice up several potatoes, fry them, and top them with beans, mayonnaise, ketchup, and relish. It fills you up for no more than a couple of dollars. Story 126. Spaghetti and yogurt, about 10 cents per serving. Story 127. Instant noodles. We have enough in storage that, even if we run out of everything else in the house, we could live on noodles for a month. I try to keep the supply at that level. If I am feeling lazy and eat one, I buy new flavors to replenish the supply. Story 128. On many occasions, I have gone to sleep at 7 p.m. to avoid dinner. Story 129. Plain beans and rice are inexpensive. A small bag of rice costs about $4 and provides enough for more than 15 plates. A can of beans costs about $1.50 and yields 2 plates. That works out to about $1 per meal, and the nutrition is decent. If you stretch a can to 3 plates and use more rice per plate, the cost per meal may be closer to 75 cents. Story 130. Rice with canned sardines or mackerel, salad, and tomatoes. Cheap, fast, and filling. Story 131. Caviar and Wagyu. I camp beside Michelin restaurants' trash cans. Story 132. Golden tacos with Odad beans and food left over from yesterday. Story 133. Campbell's tomato soup with a package of frozen vegetables of your choice. Story 134. I survived on a single 7-Eleven hot dog a day, which I would load with ketchup, mustard, diced tomatoes, diced onions, jalapenos, nacho cheese, and chili from the condiment bar. I still eat one of these occasionally because it really hits. Story 135. Canned beans slow-cooked with inexpensive pork trimmings. Add onion and carrot. Use chicken stock or beer as the cooking liquid. Top with crushed crackers and a slice of processed cheese. Then bake. Story 136. Couscous with frozen roasted vegetables. I eat it when I have no time to shop or cook, rather than because I have no money. Story 137. I was going to say Stouffer's Salisbury steak, but the prices have gone up, so banquet. Story 138. 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on store-brand bread, a banana, and a store-brand high-protein granola bar. 1 baked potato, mashed and topped with 1/4 cup of store-brand cheese, 1 cup of plant-based meat or 1 cup of black beans to save money, 1.5 cups of store-brand frozen spinach, and 3 eggs. I buy higher quality eggs, but they are still fairly inexpensive. Story 139. Press the water out of a block of tofu. Tofu is usually inexpensive, less than $3. Crumble the tofu and mix with plenty of salt and seasonings. I use dill and nutritional yeast. Add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Place in a greased pan and bake in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 minutes. Turning halfway through. Makes 2 to 3 relatively protein-dense meals for under $5. Serve with rice or vegetables to make it more filling. Story 140. I have eaten rice and beans more than 6,250 times since 2005. Story 141. Pasta cooked and roasted in a pan with butter and breadcrumbs. Story 142. White rice with canned tuna and a fried egg. Filling and tasty with the right toppings. Less than $1.50 for a whole meal. Story 143. Rice, soy sauce, sesame oil, cut up hot dogs or Spam, and scrambled eggs. These ingredients make a delicious, filling meal and can be bought cheaply in bulk. Story 144. Ketchup mixed with lukewarm tap water. I call it tomato soup. Story 145. Dull. You will need any form of lentil. Split red works best. A head of garlic. A tin of chopped tomatoes. Chili flakes. Turmeric. Salt. Flour, water, and yogurt if you want to make bread. That is a week's food for 10 pounds. Less if you buy in bulk from an Indian grocer. Story 146. White rice. Place 2 sunny-side-up eggs on top and mix them in. Story 147. College casserole. A box of macaroni and cheese, a can of tuna, and a can of peas. Prepare the macaroni and cheese, then add the tuna and peas and heat thoroughly. Delicious. In the early 1990s, it cost less than $3 and I could get 2 meals from it. Story 148. No chance they still do these, but in university I used to buy a 1-pound frozen bag of 20 Asda Smart Price sausages. Cook them, cut them up, and add them to the 10-pence instant noodles. They were a lifesaver. Sometimes I would also add kidney beans. Story 149. Every meal costs on average 1 pound and provides 20 to 40 grams of protein. All items are store-brand. Chicken slices and light cream cheese sandwich, 24 grams protein, 296 kilocalories, 0.69 pounds. For more calories, use full-fat cream cheese. 8 chicken dippers and a tin of baked beans, 32 grams protein, 714 kilocalories, 0.79 pounds. Preparation time is minimal. Nutrients are not ideal, but I supplement them, which keeps costs down. Story 150. It's a bastardized version of Slovak haluski. It uses egg noodles, a pint of cottage cheese, and a stick of browned butter. Add steamed cabbage if you want to get fancy. Story 151. Sausage gravy and biscuits. Serves 4 to 5 people for about $7. Story 152. Mix half or 1/3 of an instant soup packet, preferably one with vegetables, with a diced potato. Boil until the potato is tender. It is tasty and inexpensive. Story 153. When I was overseas, I used to wait until later in the morning and buy black pudding for 10 pence. It was difficult to stomach at first, but you get a taste for it. Story 154. Salt pork and lentils with crusty bread and butter. Cut salt pork into 1/4-inch cubes. Brown in a pan with a little diced onion and pepper. Add 2 bags of red lentils and enough water to cover by about an inch. Add red pepper flakes to taste and 1 or 2 bay leaves if desired. Simmer for several hours until the lentils are very soft. Serve with crusty bread and butter. If you want to be fancy, sauté cherry tomatoes and sliced red onion in a very hot pan with butter. Do not stir often so the vegetables develop a brown side and a less cooked side. Then spoon them over the lentils. Optional. Top with sour cream. If you don't want to use salt pork, use bacon instead. Story 155. I used to drink the tears of Karens, but it was just too much goddamn work. Coffee. Story 156. Avocado sandwich. As a South American, avocado is a significant part of my diet, especially at breakfast. Story 157. Cream of chicken soup and a bag of frozen vegetables. Heat them and serve over toast or canned biscuits if available. Story 158. Steak sandwich with A1 sauce on a piece of white bread. Some of you are not really poor. Story 159. Minute rice with a packet of tuna. Bonus points if it is flavored. And 1 to 3 packets of Chinese takeout soy sauce. Maybe some red pepper flakes if I am feeling fancy. It is filling, costs less than $2 per serving, and is quick to prepare. Story 160. Ramen, mayonnaise, teriyaki sauce, and bacon bits. My mom says she never smoked marijuana but taught me this, so I don't know. Story 161. A bag of Doritos and a stolen jar of Tostitos cheese, because no fucking way I am paying $10 or more for that. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.